Hello, I'm Angela Murphy and you're watching Global Pulse here on Asia One. This week, another monsoon disaster hits India's northeast as families once again face the rising waters. Against the backdrop of Israel's genocide, one Gaza student achieves what many thought impossible. As wildfires tear through parts of France, a rescue effort begins for those often forgotten, the animals caught in the flames. And New Zealand celebrates as golfer Ryan Fox returns home with golf's most famous trophy. So let's begin in Asia. In India's flood-prone northeast, hundreds of thousands of people are once again battling rising waters. Critics say governments have spent decades reacting to disasters instead of trying to prevent them, leaving vulnerable communities to pay the price year after year.
Floodwaters continue to engulf large parts of Sivasagar district in India's Assam state as residents wade through submerged streets and homes. Relentless monsoon rains have inundated more than 1,800 villages, while rescue teams use boats to reach stranded communities across the flood-hit state. Residents say entire communities were forced to flee as floodwaters swept through their villages, leaving widespread destruction and loss behind.
In this village where we are standing today, families from every house in this area were forced to leave. Many of their loved ones are still missing. Only one person was found, but he had drowned. He died the following day while being taken to the hospital. Even today, when we think about the devastation caused by those floods, it still sends shivers through us.
Authorities have opened nearly 150 relief camps providing shelter to about 30,000 people. More than 50 small boats have been deployed to rescue residents from shallow, flooded areas that larger emergency boats cannot reach.
As the water gradually entered our house and reached the road, we slowly moved all our belongings to higher places. But by around 8 o'clock, the water level rose dramatically. We then took shelter in another house nearby that was slightly higher. My wife, daughter's father and I all stayed there for a while. Soon we saw the water reach the ventilation window. After that, we broke the ventilation window and climbed up onto the roof.
Flooding is a recurring threat during India's annual monsoon season, but experts say climate change and rapid urbanisation are making extreme rainfall and flood disasters more frequent and more severe across the country.
Keeping the light on is becoming an increasing challenge in Bangladesh. Long queues for fuel and worsening gas shortages are disrupting daily life as global tensions and supply disruptions deepen the country's growing energy crisis.
Vehicles are lining up at fuel stations across Bangladesh as gas shortages disrupt daily life and businesses. In Dhaka, families are switching between induction stoves and traditional clay ovens as cooking gas becomes harder to find.
The gas supply often runs out in the morning. We need to cook in the morning, but sometimes we get gas and sometimes we don't. It returns around 2 or 3 p.m. but runs out again by evening.
We have major problems with public transport because of the gas shortage. Patients are facing difficulties as we come here to get gas. We stand in long lines at gas stations, but many of us still leave without any gas.
The shortage is also threatening electricity generation and the country's vital garment industry. Factory owners say dozens of plants have been forced to stop production because gas shortages are leaving captive power plants idle.
If you look at the meter at our dispenser, you can see the reading. It is supposed to show £200 per square inch, but it is showing only 100 or 120 pounds per square inch. Sometimes it even drops below 100. In this situation, supplying gas to these vehicles has become very difficult for us.
With no clear timeline for supplies to return to normal, Bangladesh's energy crisis is putting further pressure on households and one of the country's biggest export industries.
Turning our attention to what's been happening this week in the Middle East now. As violence in the occupied West Bank continues to escalate, thousands of Israelis are demanding action closer to home. Protesters in Tel Aviv say attacks by extremist settlers are fueling further division and undermining hopes for peace.
Demonstrators gathered in central Tel Aviv to protest what they described as a rise in extremist settler violence across the occupied West Bank. Protesters called for greater action from the government, while police blocked their route during the rally. Some protesters say recent incidents in the West Bank show an increase in violence against Palestinian communities.
I came here today because in the recent days, in the recent weeks, we've seen even a more increase in extremist settler terrorism in the West Bank. They rampage through villages, they burn homes, they kill people, and they do this in the backing of the state, with the backing of the military.
The protesters marched as tensions continue to rise in the occupied West Bank, where Palestinian communities have reported attacks by Israeli settlers. Demonstrators say the violence has intensified and are demanding government intervention.
The violence is erupting without any way to stop it. The government and the army are supporting the settlers who are beginning the violence, and it has to be stopped.
The protest highlights growing debate inside Israel over settler violence in the occupied West Bank. While activists demand immediate action, tensions continue as international pressure grows over the situation in the territory.
War has taken almost everything from 18-year-old Zaba Raba, her home, her father, and her chance of a normal childhood. But it couldn't take away her determination. Against extraordinary odds, the Gaza teenager has become one of the territory's highest achieving students.
Zaba Raba celebrated the achievement with her family at the Al-Maghazi refugee camp in central Gaza, where they have been living after being displaced. Her remarkable result came despite years of Israeli war on Gaza that disrupted her education and daily life.
I achieved a score of 99.9%, ranking first in the nation in the science stream. I dedicate this achievement to the spirit of my martyred father, Fayed Rabah, who Saba says was killed in an Israeli airstrike in June 2024, to my mother, who helped me immensely, to my sister, Dr. Nada, to my brothers, and also to my teachers.
Just days before the examinations in the Palestinian National High School exams, the house opposite the family's temporary shelter was bombed, forcing them to flee once again. Raba says she also lost half of her books after her family home was destroyed, but remained determined to continue studying and pursue her dream of becoming a doctor.
There was a lot of displacement and fear, and our house was also destroyed. We rented a house here, and the house in front of us was also targeted. I lost half of my books, but I continued with my goals, and I hope to complete my studies in medical school.
For Zaba Raba, the result represents more than academic success. In the midst of displacement, destruction, and the loss of loved ones, her achievement stands as a symbol of perseverance and hope for a future she still believes can be rebuilt through education.
Moving on to Europe now. Wildfires don't only force people to flee. Across southern France, hundreds of pets have also been displaced. Now, a temporary veterinary centre is helping reunite frightened animals with the families forced to leave them behind.
At the Bordeaux Exhibition Centre, France, where wildfire evacuees have been sheltering for days, veterinarians and volunteers are caring for hundreds of pets forced to flee the flames. The emergency veterinary unit is offering free food, treatment and advice as France battles one of its worst wildfire seasons in decades.
I'm a veterinary surgeon, but I work with cattle and sheep. I just couldn't sit in a flat doing nothing while all this was happening, knowing I might have some useful skills. There are many people with animals who didn't have time to bring everything they needed, so there's a lot of practical help we can offer.
The veterinary centre has received large donations of food, medicines and pet supplies, helping owners care for animals traumatised by evacuation while reducing pressure on emergency shelters.
It wasn't complicated, no. I brought a carrier for 2 cats, another carrier for a cat on its own, and then the dog, along with some food. In fact, everything you see around me was provided by the veterinary centre. I've got more than enough, and so have my animals.
Many pets remain anxious after the evacuation, while owners worry about their health and the uncertainty of when they can safely return home.
We're worried precisely because there are dogs around, and she hasn't had all her vaccinations updated yet, along with everything that comes with that. Transporting cats is also not the same as transporting a dog. It's a completely different thing.
As firefighters continue battling the Gironde wildfires, emergency support for evacuated families now extends beyond people to their animals. With France facing one of its most challenging wildfire seasons, veterinary teams are helping protect pets, ease owners' concerns, and ensure families can stay together until it is safe to return home.
For many survivors of domestic abuse, escaping violence is only the beginning. A Dutch charity is helping remove tattoos linked to years of coercion and control, offering survivors the chance to leave painful memories behind and start again.
For years, 53-year-old Joke endured severe abuse at the hands of her former partner, who forcibly tattooed his name across her face and body. After escaping, she turned to Rotterdam-based foundation Spijt van Tattoo, which provides free tattoo removal for survivors of coercive abuse and trafficking.
Ik ben in de handen van een psychopathische.
I ended up in the hands of a psychopathic narcissist. First, he completely cut me off from my children and my family, spent all my money, locked me up in caravans and sheds, and then, under coercion, had me completely tattooed.
Helemaal ondergetatoeëerd.
Co-founder Andy Hahn says Joke's case was among the most severe the foundation had ever encountered.
I didn't know where to look. Her chest, her face, her eyes, her nose, everything was covered with his name. So I didn't know where to start because 99% of the people want to remove only one name or a text. She was fully covered. So I didn't know where to start. So they were talking, they were telling us how she lived and how she was forced to do this. And she hadn't been on the street for quite a while because she was ashamed.
Experts say forced tattooing is a hidden form of domestic violence that can leave lasting psychological trauma, with many victims feeling trapped long after escaping abusive relationships.
Domestic violence on a whole is like a problem which occurs every day. Forced tattoos is a very specific form of domestic violence. I don't see it every day in practice, but it's not something that it's not there. It's hidden. These people are not alone, and they need to seek help if they want that.
Since launching its pro bono program in 2018, Spijt van Tattoo has helped hundreds of survivors remove tattoos linked to abuse, coercion, and trafficking. The Rotterdam-based foundation is now preparing to expand its services internationally, helping more victims erase the visible scars of abuse while rebuilding their confidence and independence.
Next on Global Pulse, a farewell to one of America's most polarising political figures. And on a remote island nation in the Indian Ocean, a daily struggle for something many take for granted: water.